I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst. On the program, should Canada cut ties with the British monarchy?
I like being a part of the British monarchy.
It's a part of our living history.
Canada should absolutely cut ties with the British monarchy.
Nah, I don't know, who cares?
But first, during election campaigns, political parties and even politicians will make a slew of election promises in hopes of persuading Canadians to vote for them, and oftentimes it works in their favor. But making those promises is one thing, keeping them is another. So we sent our cameras out to ask people what a party of any political stripe has to do to win their support during an election. Our question:
what must a political party do to win your support during an election?
I think for political parties to win my support during an election, they need to speak to issues that I think are more than just niche. I think in the last number of years especially, we see the parties playing to very specific needs from their electorate, and I think I'd like to see more centrist parties that focus on sort of the core issues to Canadians, so jobs, the economy, healthcare, and cities and well-being.
Making sure the city is livable, helping the homeless, mainly just like real issues that people go through every second of the day type things, just real support for your citizens, not just campaigning and getting your face out there as much as you possibly can.
Having a good way to combat, I think housing prices is a big important thing right now, especially for younger people like us. Housing prices are a really difficult thing for us.
They must stay on their promises. Like, for example, if they make some promise during the elections, they must go through the promise. They must follow along and not make empty promises to the people. That's very important for me.
A party that treats everyone equal, that has that stays current and stays fresh, but really it's like humanity.
Politicians, or the people running for office, need to really just spend more time focusing on what they have to bring to the table, what their party has to bring to the table, and less time bashing the other guy's ideas. Something along the lines of being environmentally proactive, economically proactive, being gender neutral, or even outright feminist government in more than just name. There's a lot of groups that really do need a lot of special attention, and they're not necessarily the people who have the votes. And a lot of the main parties tend to ignore them because they don't have the votes there.
I'd like to see a little more help for the middle class. Like, I understand that there's lots of stuff that they've done to support families and stuff like that, but there's a lot of middle class that doesn't have kids. So I'd like to see a little bit more towards kind of helping the middle class, especially with costs nowadays and things like that as well. So it seems to be a hot topic item.
I think the most important thing is that the political party be inclusive of all residents of Canada. So I think that's a big part of being Canada, is including everybody so that no one gets left out when they're making decisions.
I would say a big priority is to focus on tax reduction. I would say that's important. See if there's further action that can be taken to reduce at a federal level, the GST, or internally within the province, do something with the provincial income tax and the sales tax.
Be more down to earth, be in touch with the people, be more supportive of other cultural backgrounds.
A political party has to care about the people, care about the environment, and care about the future of this country, our present situation and the future of this country. Care about mental health anxiety that's affecting our young children a lot, and the youth, and then care about Housing is a big challenge. It's becoming a big challenge because it's causing homelessness.
Oh my God, just follow through with one promise. Like, besides weed, I don't care about weed, and that's what they gave us because they knew it would placate us for a couple of years. Like, I want to get rid of first past the post. I want someone to show that they've actually gone through the things that they seem to be talking about. As close as we can get, I think it's the NDP, but still that's a little bit too center for what I think needs to happen in order for this world not to devolve. But yeah, it really seems like they're just a bunch of puppets and we're fools for listening to most of the things.
You know, it's the same rhetoric over and over again. You know, you never believe what they're actually going to come through with. So some accountability would be good. So if they've proven, a proven track record would be good.
Well, we don't really have much of a health care right now. Yeah, like ambulances, like people are waiting 2-3 hours to get an ambulance. It's waiting in emergencies for 12-24 hours. It's kind of sad.
A political party has to be very open with and honest. I look for honesty and openness in their campaign and what they believe in, as well as touching important topics like poverty, opioid crisis, stuff like that.
Education is a big thing for sure. The roads, how our taxes are being spent. We just legalized cannabis and our roads are crap, even though they said that was going to be used for our roads. Yeah, I think that the platform just has to be something that I agree with.
They have to show me that they're open to new ideas and they're not just going to, stick to the same old, because clearly the status quo isn't working. So if a political party is giving me a real different option, then I'm open to voting for them.
Statistics Canada has suggested that Canada's poverty rate has actually seen a slight decline in recent years. But despite that, millions of Canadians still live below the poverty line in every region of the country, which includes some Indigenous communities. Situations like a global pandemic can exacerbate the effects of poverty, especially for those who have nowhere else to turn. So, what could we do to make things better? Our question.
What ideas do you have to reduce poverty in Canada?
Well, that's a tricky one because that's a very complex issue. It's not just related to the shortage of food, for example. There's many issues that drive poverty. I would say it would be something that needs a more holistic approach. Everything from education, healthcare, probably things related to mental health to help drive a better quality of life for those individuals. So I don't think it's a single solution. I think it's more of a complex issue.
I would say equal job opportunities for everyone. That's what I think is the best, and really giving people information on where to apply and how to apply. Because most people don't even know how to structure a resume when they're looking for a job. So I think that's the major thing, educating people on how to look for a job rather than just telling people go find one.
I think we all need to take part in that and really, really support the people that need our help that are out there on the streets, right? I think we can turn a lot more buildings into more homeless shelters. Like there's buildings here that aren't being used. They're just sitting there rotting away. Well, why not fix those buildings? Get them up to code and get people in off the streets, right? That's what I think.
The politicians can't figure it out, so I can hardly do it. But create more jobs would be the first thing. And to reduce the cost of living so other people can afford to work. People are quitting now because they can't afford to get to work with the gas prices.
Attitude towards poverty needs to change, and I think building a stronger middle class through support networks and social structures is the way to do that.
Removing tax or lower the tax. Since Canada has probably the highest level of taxes all over the world, so drop the tax. Bank fees, internet fees, solar phone fees, all of this also should be dropped because we are the highest in the world.
I think to help reduce poverty, I know what I see for sure is there's a ton of food waste, and even if we'd lived in New York City for a while, and obviously a homeless problem there, and during that time there were a lot of vacant hotels, and even normally there's a lot of hotel space that isn't being utilized, and they were trying to help the homeless population by giving them a hotel room, and they were kind of seeing that, you know, by helping to take them off the streets and provide shower and opportunities and things like that, that it helps.
I think a lot of it is just lack of opportunity. I think there's a lot of work that could be done in communities, like sustainability, like agriculture. I feel like a lot of that isn't really addressed, and it's a lot of it is work that I feel like a lot of people don't want to do, but there are lots of willing people that are out of luck that would be more than happy to, and I think that's a big missed opportunity.
We need to reduce the stigma as well as for homeless people. I think it's really important that the stigma is reduced for them because it's hard living that way. I know people myself that are struggling with that, and housing right now is so expensive. It's really important that we have affordable housing.
Better mental health maybe, so that people are able to work. More work-life balance maybe for people to better, I guess childcare is going in the right direction, so people are able to work and get jobs that are able to pay for daycare, I guess, where it's going to be more feasible.
I think universal benefit has been proven in other countries to effectively manage some of the lower end, disparity. You want to try and even things out. That's the way to do it.
Mental health supports awareness treatment. Actually treat it like healthcare, because it is. If your mind isn't well, your body isn't going to be well. It's not like we leave our brains at the door when our bodies are getting treated. We need to be treating people as opposed to statistics or individual illnesses.
A basic income that could almost kind of go with somebody that also works. Like, there is a basic income that, we can look after a lot of our, basic necessities and whatnot. But if, you have the will and you want to work, to get, the extra stuff, you can go out and do that as well. So I feel like it'd be nice to get everybody on a level where, okay, basic necessities are met and that money's a little bit more looked after.
Small businesses are disappearing, and the big multinational business are taking over, but we're not seeing any benefits. They get a lot of funding from government, a lot of support. The private business, the small business, the independent business is not getting the same support. They employ the same number of people, so something wrong with it. We have to look really at how to support our local businesses, independent businesses, especially for a small place like BI. So we have to think about that, having a committee to look at, supporting local and independent business.
That's a really, really, really tough one, and I don't really think there are any easy answers to it. I think that one of the things that the pandemic has definitely shown us is that these types of issues can affect different Canadians differently. I do think that we should be careful about allocating resources when they're not being based on greatest need. So, for example, I think that means testing is a very effective way to make sure that the right amount of support is going to the right people at the right time.
Minimum wage is probably part of it. I think, getting minimum wage up to at least $15 an hour. I think that's probably the biggest step they could take to help. It's not going to solve it, but would help.
In what year did Newfoundland officially change its name to Newfoundland and Labrador? 1951, 1981, 2001.
1981.
Yeah, I'd say 1981.
Saying 81.
81.
I want to say 2001.
Me too, 2001.
2001.
No. I think 81.
1951.
Final answer.
2001.
81.
Well, the answer is 2001. You did it.
A former colony and dominion of the British Empire, the province of Newfoundland joined Confederation in 1949, led by Premier Joey Smallwood. Despite Labrador constituting 71% of the province's land area, hence the nickname the Big Land, Canada's 10th province was known only as Newfoundland for decades. That all changed on December 6, 2001, when Governor General Adrian Clarkson proclaimed an amendment to the Constitution officially changing Newfoundland's name to Newfoundland and Labrador.
In recent years, both Canada and the U.S. have seen a staggering increase in opioid-related overdoses and deaths. According to the federal government, between January of 2016 and September of 2021, more than 26,000 Canadians have died due to opioid-related overdoses, most of those occurring in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario. So we took to the streets to ask Canadians what ideas they may have to fight back against this deadly epidemic. Our question:
what more could be done to help combat Canada's opioid crisis?
To combat Canada's opioid crisis, I'd say that we need accessible kits for people that have overdosed and more awareness around it. A lot of people think it's the person's fault, but it can be an addiction, and it's not their fault. So having more awareness around it and accessibility to narcotic kits and stuff like that to help them.
I think safe injection sites are something that's been proven to help Canada's opioid crisis. You know, I think they're big in BC more than they are here, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that they really help, and just decriminalization in general.
We can have better healing centers. We can have recovery programs. We can also have support our non-profits, because they support the people that are either facing opioids or on methadone or things like that. And the other thing we can do is support the ones that have not yet gone into that slippery slope. Yeah, so that's that we prevent others from getting into that situation.
We're not taking a holistic approach to health, and we need to start looking at getting healthy foods in and getting people who have a roof over their heads, and then maybe there won't be in as much pain, or maybe they'll be able to seek alternative therapies and medicines to help, rather than just asking a doctor for a prescription. The doctor's overworked, they don't have time to get to know their patients. 150,000 Nova Scotians have no doctor, so they're just going to a walk-in who has no background on them.
That's tough. I've heard some different opinions between whether it should just be like fully legalized or whether we should lock down on it. So I'm not sure. I think that issue is pretty deeply rooted because it's got a lot to do with mental health and stuff. So it's if people are hurting and you take a substance away from them that's helping them, then they're just going to look for something else if the problem's not fixed at the root.
I have a lot of friends that have been in recovery and have made it through and whatnot, and the programs are getting a lot better. But I feel like the biggest thing that got a lot of people into it was doing them when they were too young, and I just feel like a lot of those opioids or those stronger medications when you are young. I feel like that should be really, really looked at, because I find that's where a lot of the addiction does come from, when you're younger and stuff like that, and you just don't understand the risks.
Opioid, alcohol, tobacco, whatever. It's not an easy thing to fix. So I don't know what they're trying out west is decriminalizing it. Is that going to work? I don't know. I don't think that helps get people off the drug.
The opioid crisis is awful, and it's one of those things that I luckily didn't have to deal with when I was growing up. I think we've seen some positive things south of the border in terms of holding some of the companies to account for the practices and policies that they had that led to these things becoming so widely available. At the end of the day, though, I think one of the most difficult angles of this is the fact that much of these are probably being produced illicitly overseas and making it into Canada through, frankly, channels we can't regulate. So as much as I think it's important to treat addictions as a public health issue, I think it is really, really important to try to identify how these types of drugs are making it into the country and see what steps we can take to address them.
Decriminalizing. Building support for the opioid crisis into the healthcare system and destigmatizing it is the only way people are going to feel safe.
I would say education for younger generations, that's the first thing, and also trying to give people the mental perspective on why people are using opioids. So most people don't really know how to handle like depression and other mental illnesses. So you find people looking for an escape. They're just trying to run away from that like dark place that they're in for a few minutes. So they end up taking things that end up drawing them further into that dark place. So I would say it's more of a mental health thing that people need to like study first before just saying don't do drugs.
Unpopular opinion, needs to be decriminalized and legalized and made so that it is not it's not dangerous to seek help for treatment. If it's illegal and people can't come forward without being arrested when needing help, then they're not going to go for help, and that just makes this cycle worse.
We have, of course, just witnessed the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. While the monarchy has won the admiration of millions of Canadians for years, and they've been a part of the Canadian fabric since Confederation, the notion has been thrown around from time to time to make a clean break from the royals. And some nations around the world are doing just that. Barbados, for example, removed the Queen as head of state back in November, making that nation a republic. So, should Canada follow suit, or are we good just the way we are? Our question.
Should Canada cut ties with the British monarchy?
I definitely don't really see a huge purpose in having a monarchy in Canada, and I definitely respect people's opinion either way, but I personally get a kick out of them. I really enjoy them, and I do not think that they do anything bad or good either way, so I'm chill. And I do think that the amount of tourism money that comes in, especially for the UK and maybe in ties Canada, isn't a bad thing either.
It's good to, have them some kind of figurehead, but when you look at the cost to the Canadian taxpayer, every province has a lieutenant governor, and then we have the governor general, and then all the costs associated with that, and it's symbolic. I don't think we need that anymore.
The Queen shouldn't have their picture on our money. We should have our own money, because we're Canada. We're not with the British no more. So I think we should go on our own.
And I think it's a part of our living history that is as relevant to those families who've been here for centuries, including our Aboriginal peoples and people who have moved to the province in recent years. And furthermore, it adds a great deal of color and from time to time a little bit of controversy, which is good. But on balance, it's a good, positive role model for most families, particularly the Queen.
I'm really undecided on that. There's plus and minuses either way. I'm not sure it's practical to do it. And of course, it does lead to issues with relationship with Indigenous peoples, because of course their treaties were signed with the Queen predating Canada. So will they stand, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those things. I can't say which way we should go, really.
I don't know if it makes any difference or not. The British monarchy will go on, and really we don't see much of the monarchy. We just live in a world that's governed by our own people. Let's say our own government.
It's interesting. I've thought about that for a long time, and while I appreciate the tradition, I actually think it might be time, especially in light of some of the revelations that we've seen over some of our colonial past.
I don't really have a reason why not, and why too. I guess it's just tradition. I'm a traditional guy, and I don't see any reason why we need to.
100%. They're antiquated and useless at best, and a figurehead to a time gone by where wealth was might. And I'm looking forward to seeing that in the history, and I'm also looking forward to seeing the monarchy in the rear view.
In my opinion, yes. I really don't know what purpose the monarchy serves to Canada. Actually, to me, the monarchy is a waste of money. And there's people in that country starving, while everybody isn't living in royalty.
Couldn't care less. Nah, I don't know. Who cares? And then, not an offensive response to the good question, but I'm 45 years old, lived in Canada half of my life. who cares? You know, you got countries like Kenya who are begging for the monarchy to come back. You know, if they want to be recolonized, because when the monarchy left, it kind of didn't go so well over there. But yeah, for Canada, I don't know. Who cares?
I don't think so. It should be. It should go on. I mean, it should not be. We should not break the ties. I mean, the relationship has to be there forever. But I think so.
Politically, we're a constitutional monarchy, so we are tied that way. I would say, if anything, now we are more symbolically tied, and we're going through that transition anyway. You see it with our currency as we're moving to Canadian heroes like Terry Fox and so on our currency, less about the Queen. And you see it culturally when anytime there's a royal visit, it's not as big a deal as I think it was in past decades.
I think so. I don't think that they have a place in Canada, or sort of, I don't think monarchies in general have any place in modern society. We're a democracy. At best, the monarchy is a figurehead, and they unfortunately stand for colonialism and Canada's more sordid past.
I don't think so. I think it's something that's a long-standing tradition, and I don't know, I kind of like that, so I don't think so.
The royal family and everything, it's lovely, it's a nice tradition, but I feel like all the overseas influence, there's not really any need for it anymore. Like, every country kind of can now operate on its own, and I feel like that's a part of history. It's historical now. It's not really necessary, I don't think, unless, of course, the country wants to be.
I'm indifferent to that. I don't see a harm in it. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other.
The sun should set on the British Empire, and it should set forever. It should be an eclipse. I think it's just a joke. I think it has nothing to do with anything other than just the jesters in the courts of yesteryear just taking our attention away from the actual things that need to be dealt with.
It's a traditional thing. There are thousands of people who like the British monarchy system and feel comfortable with it.
I like being a part of the British monarchy. I think it's unique to us versus the U.S., where they cut ties a long time ago. And I like having the Queen there and the royal family and being a part of that.
I don't think Canada should cut ties with the British monarchy yet. I'm only 21, but I mean, I've traveled there and it's been a lovely, every time I've went, my family's from Scotland, so I still have family there, and it's really nice to get to go and know that we're kind of unionized in a way. So
I'm going to say no. I'm going to stick with tradition because that's the kind of girl I am.
You like the monarchy?
I do like the monarchy. I like to follow them. Why not?
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.